Deep in the forgotten valleys of West Virginia, hidden behind broken fences and the heavy hush of the Appalachian woods, there lived a family that time itself seemed to have abandoned. The Whittakers were their name, and for as long as the oldest folk could remember, they had been there, unchanged, untouched, and unbothered by the passing world. The roads that led to their land were narrow and rough, the kind where the sound of a lone truck engine echoed for miles before fading into the forest's silence. Few dared to go down those roads, and those who did rarely came back unchanged. The Whittaker house stood crooked at the end of a dirt path, made of weathered boards and patched tin. The porch sagged like it had grown tired of holding itself up. Chickens wandered freely through the yard, pecking at the dry ground, and a few old cars sat rusting under the shade of tall oaks. The place had no electricity, no running water, no sound of the modern world, only the wind sighing through the trees and the occasional bark of a dog. It was a world apart from the rest of America, a pocket of time sealed somewhere in the 1940s or earlier. People from nearby towns whispered about the Whittakers. They said the family spoke in sounds more than words, that their eyes never seemed to look straight at you. Some said they barked like dogs, others that they howled at night when the moon was full. No one really knew what was truth and what was just old mountain gossip. But everyone agreed on one thing: the Whittakers were not like other people. The family's story began long before anyone alive could remember. Generations of living in the same isolated holler, with no outsiders coming in, had left their mark. The Whittakers had become their own world, marrying within their own kin, living off the land, hunting, fishing, and growing what they could. Their faces carried the weight of years, with pale eyes that held strange expressions, as if they had seen things no one else could understand. By the 1950s, when the rest of America was rushing toward highways, televisions, and suburban dreams, the Whittakers were still living like pioneers. The men wore overalls faded by years of labor, and the women tied their hair with scraps of old cloth. They cooked over fire pits, fetched water from wells, and used candles to light their nights. The children, barefoot and wild, played among the rusting cars and tall grass, their laughter echoing off the hills like something from another time. For years, no one bothered them. They lived quietly in their own forgotten corner of the state, never asking for help and never offering much to strangers. But word of them began to spread after a traveler passed through the area in the late 1960s. He claimed he had stumbled upon the family's home while looking for a shortcut through the mountains. What he found, he said, left him shaken. The people he saw were pale and silent, with strange movements and odd, unblinking stares. He said they didn't speak, but made sounds. Grunts, hums, and short noises that carried some hidden understanding among them. Over the years, a few brave photographers and journalists followed the rumors. They came to see the truth of America's most mysterious family. One of them, decades later, described the experience as haunting and unforgettable. When he reached their home, he said the Whittakers greeted him with cautious eyes, their expressions unreadable. Some sat on the porch, rocking slowly, while others moved about with restless energy. Their home smelled of wood smoke and earth, and though there was strangeness in every corner, there was also a sense of deep innocence, like children who had never known the world beyond their yard. Life in the mountains was hard. The soil was rocky, winters were cruel, and summers brought heavy storms that washed out the roads. Yet the Whittakers endured year after year, living in the same rhythm that had carried their ancestors. They had no doctors, no teachers, no stores nearby. Everything they knew came from each other. They hunted deer, trapped rabbits, gathered berries, and lived with a simple acceptance of whatever each day brought. As the years passed, the outside world changed faster than ever. But the Whittakers stayed the same. When television crews finally reached them decades later, they found people untouched by modern life. There were no phones, no internet, not even newspapers. They didn't care for money, fame, or pity. They just lived as they always had, in the quiet heart of the hills, the story of the Whittakers became something larger than a family mystery. It became a mirror showing what happens when a group of people lives completely apart from society. Some saw it as tragic, others as strangely pure. But those who met them face to face said there was something deeply human about them, something both unsettling and innocent at once. Their eyes held a kind of truth, one that spoke of generations living without the noise of civilization, bound by blood and silence. In the later years, when the world finally caught sight of them through cameras and screens, many viewers were shocked. They couldn't believe such a family still existed in modern America. But beneath the shock there was a haunting sadness too. The Whittakers had never chosen fame, never asked to be studied or pitied. They had simply survived in the only way they knew. Their story was not one of horror, but of isolation, of what happens when people are left to live on the edge of the map for too long. Now the house still stands, though older and quieter than ever. The family that once filled the porch has grown smaller with time. The wind still passes through the same trees, and the same dirt road still winds its way down to that lonely yard. Travelers who go there today say the air feels heavy, as if the past still lingers around every broken window and leaning wall. The Whittakers remain a living echo of another age, a shadow of what happens when time forgets a people. Their story is not written in books or recorded in clean words. It lives in whispers, in photographs, and in the uneasy silence of those who have seen them. Deep in the Appalachian hills, where the world fades into mist and memory, the Whittakers endure, a reminder that even in the heart of the most modern nation on earth, there are still places where the old world breathes, and where time itself refuses to move on. That is the strange, haunting legacy of America's darkest family tree, the Whittakers of Appalachia.